Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to our live talk program. This is Lloyd Grubb here, your host on Revive Reform Radio, doing our live talk program covering current events on this year Thursday. And today we're looking at a topic: win at all costs and by any means necessary, especially war. So, welcome again. Thanks for joining me here. Let us pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, I thank you for your word and this day. I pray the Lord, you may bless us as I share some thoughts on history and what's going on currently. May you be with us, we pray for Christ's sake. Amen. So I'm looking at this topic here, which is win at all costs and by any means necessary, especially war. And so this is part of my continuation of the theme that we're looking at this week, or I'm sharing with you, which is when negative and destructive characteristics develop in a culture to the point where the founding fathers and founding principles they establish are strange and unknown to the current children of the kingdom. And so, war, as I mentioned, I think on Monday or Tuesday, war is part of this special characteristics that came out of Europe that the founding fathers they experienced it, but they had tried to put some things like war powers, like who declare war in America, and so forth. So I think things have gotten to a level now where there's constant war that I believe that the founding fathers would find is kind of a strange stance, and that's important. And if you have ever read or listened to a clip or something, it's online where President Eisenhower he made some statements about the military-industrial complex, and he thought that it was a very negative development within America, that this military-industrial complex would dominate the country and make and bring the country to a way. So what that brings to my mind, if you've ever seen a speech with Dwight Eisenhower, I think that's how you call his name, that even for him, he thought it was not what it was, that the country was becoming a country of war, permanent war. And it's fascinating when if you've lived the last 25 years and you've seen the country go from one war to the next. That has to be fascinating because when you go back to that speech and you listen to him, he sounds like a conspiracy theorist. And he sounds like he's not a military man, this is not a general, president. If you listen to the current president as an example, and every president, probably except Trump, until from Bush, Obama, and now President, what's his name, Biden. They sound so different from what's his name, Eisenhower. So this is I want to peruse this concept with you because I find this concept fascinating. That if you just go by what Dwight Eisenhower said, it would seem like he would not recognize. He recognized it in a sense from a prophetic point of view, or prognostication. He saw it developing, but even as a man of war himself, that he thought it was getting out of control. And for him to say that, that tells you that we have developed into a way that if the great gulf could be not fixed, but there's a great gulf fixed between the dead and the living. But if he could have come back and see what has happened in the last 25 years to America, he would have said, I called it, but he would have said, man, that's fascinating. It's a monstrosity right now of just constant war. So one of the things that we are told that is very important for us as Christians is that we don't do competitive sports because we don't want to get into this mindset of winning at all costs and by any means necessary, especially war. Because what that does, it creates a competitive system in you that you win in either at your own destruction or the destruction to the world or the destruction to your community. And that is a negative thing. And we avoid this because of that. We're not trying to win, so to speak, in the sense of win the other person. I'm not competing against others. And when you see people in this mindset, they'll destroy themselves and others just to win and end up destroying themselves. And this is what's been happening to the country. The country is like going worse because of this mindset of war, war, war. And it shapes almost most of our current events. Even when yesterday, if you listened to me yesterday, I was talking about the Rockefellers and the Carnegie and how they created the drug culture in America with the Cancer Society, American Cancer Society and stuff like that. They won. You can't take away the fact that the Carnegie and the Rockefellers won. They whip everybody buttocks. And they're just killing left, right, and center right now. And yet, in America, most Americans don't understand that. When you're dying of cancer and they tell you they're going to treat you with either radiation, chemo, or surgery, that's the winning of John D. Rockefeller and Andrew Carnegie. They won. But what is the end result of that winning? You see, that's where the problem is, winning at all costs by any means, because you're building monopolies, which is against the country and against the founding fathers, because they came from Europe where there were monopolies, and now you're winning. So I want to explore this with you here. So when negative and destructive characteristics develop in a culture to a point where the founding fathers and founding principles they establish are strange and unknown to the current children of the kingdom. So as I say, if you went right now and played the speech for Dwight Eisenhower of his thinking about the military-industrial complex. And what I was told is that when the original speech was written, he had called it the military congressional industrial complex. And because of pushback that he would have received, he decided to take out the word congressional. So I think it's the Congress is the problem, which is going to be important to what I'm talking about next. And so we go to Luke again. So I'm going to explore this, and I say I'm exploring it primarily from that thought with Dwight Eisenhower, because it seemed like the older people would not recognize the current America right now when it comes on to the amount of wars we're fighting, constantly fighting, and we'll constantly fight. It will destroy the country ultimately. Luke chapter 23, verse 23 onwards. So notice here, and they were instant with loud voices, requiring that he must be crucified. And the voice of them and of the chief priests prevailed. So they won. In other words, the chief priests, Ananias, I think, Caiaphas is one of them, the various chief priests and the leading men in Israel, they won. Christ lost. And you have to say it, Christ lost. But what happened? You see, what happened after? Because when winning at all costs becomes, it doesn't matter. As long as you win, even if you win to your own destruction, you kill yourself after you win. Because Judas won the money. He won. See, but so when you're in that mindset of winning, you're destructive to your own self because your aim is to win. Somebody said, well, they won. Sure, they won. But at what cost? And Pilate gave sentence that it should be as they required, the winners. And he released unto them him that for sedition and murder was cast into prison, whom they had desired. But he delivered Jesus to their will. To their will. Not to God's will. Not to what's right. It's just we won, baby. And as they led him away, they laid upon one Simon, a Cyrenian, coming out of the country. And on him they laid the cross that he might bear it after Jesus. And there followed him a great company of people and of women, which also bewailed and lamented him. But Jesus turning unto them said, Daughters of Jerusalem, suck. Then shall they begin to say to the mountains, Fall on us, and to the hills, cover us. For if they do these things in a green tree, what shall be done in the dry? So here you have a situation here where Christ now is saying to the women, he's about to die. You know what's going to happen. He's clear what's going to happen. You know, if you've been around, you know, these evildoers, you know what they're going to do. So Christ is about to die, and Christ is saying, wait. Don't weep for me. You have a bigger problem here. When I die, you're left with these goons, and they're going to murder you. They're going to murder your kids. They're going to cause death and destruction because they win. And so here's the thing with winning. With Christ, they could have won. With the disciples, they could have won. But they made because they're warmongers. And, this is what it is. When I was young, what I would see is that there's somebody who is aggressive. They're very aggressive. They like to fight. And they have a fight stand, and they're going to win because it depends who they're fighting. And every now and then, they'll run into somebody. Where you see people like that, every now and then, they'll run into somebody that is going to be like, no, I'm going to fight you. I'm not going to take it like that. But the average person, they just want to go about their life. They just want to live. But there's people who in a mindset that they into that mindset too. They're going to fight back. And the problem with that is that they were really kind of dealing with somebody that would have fought them. Not Jesus. Ultimately, Jesus will take care of them at the end because Christ is on a mercy mission always. And Christ, after long, burdensome dealing with humanity every now and then, every so often, Christ will give it to the wicked people. But for the most part, the wicked people will bully people. So it's always a story with the bully. The bully is always in a mindset where he want to beat up those who he can fight. But every now and then, somebody comes along and says, "No, I'll deal with you." So in the Christ situation, the women and the kids, they can't fight them. They can't deal with them. But there's always somebody be like, "Nah, I'm not into that type of game. I'm gonna fight." And I've seen this over and over throughout my life that there's somebody will answer the question. So this is a question now. I'm gonna go to Revelation 13, verse 1 through 4. I read it for you before, and let's read it again now for your mindset again, for you, our minds. Let's look at this beautiful Revelation 13, verse 1 through 4. Now, this is the first beast. This is Western Europe under the control of the seven Western kingdoms under the control of the papacy. And here's described the kingdom after the breakup of the 10 divisions of Rome and then to 7. And this is now the papacy, and the papacy is going after the righteous. Call them the martyrs. They created martyrs all over Europe. But was that the only thing happening? So let's read it for you, and we'll pick this up. Notice here, I stood on the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, a wild animal, rise up out of the sea of people. And he had 7 heads, 7 western kingdoms of Europe, and 10 horns because he genocided 3 of their own people. And upon his horn, 10 crowns, because there were 10 crowns, and 3 they got beheaded, so there's just the crowns that are left, the territory is left. And upon his head, the name blasphemy, so he's going against God. He claims evolution, he claims he's the man of sin and all kind of craziness. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet was like unto a bear, and the mouth was the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power, which is the Roman Empire, and his seat and great authority. So we can see this is why many people speak one of the romantic languages. And he comes from, he looks like Babylon, Media Persia, Greece, and then obviously it's Rome. And I saw one of his head as it was wounded unto death, 1798, and his deadly wound was healed. He started getting back some power. And all the world wondered after the beast, which is the old system. So now when people interpret this, they say they wonder after the papacy, the Vatican, and the Pope. But it's the whole 7 Western tribe. It's the beast. The beast has 7 heads. One of the heads was wounded. The one head that got wounded was the papacy and the Catholic nuns and priests that got killed after the French Revolution. So that's the proper way I understand to interpret it. It is 7 heads. One of the heads got wounded. So what happened to the 6 heads? Well, France, Germany, England, Portugal, Spain, so forth, they didn't get no wound. Their kings and monarchies continue with their ways of doing life. But the papacy and Italy is coming back, they say. Now, notice here, verse 4. And they worship the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. So who they worshiping when they worship the 7-head monstrosity out of Europe, or which is Western Europe, they're worshiping Satan. And they worship the beast, the whole system, saying, who is like unto the beast and who is able to make war? So who is like unto the beast and who is able to make war with him? So this is a fascinating thing. Now, I remember I'd introduced this question to you, I think on Monday. I introduced this question. And now I'm going to answer the question for you. So the question been asked of Western Europe, as it is led out by the Catholic institution, the one head in Italy, the main head, so to speak, that got wounded by France. Who is able to make war? So for the last 25 years, the daughter of Europe, the primary daughter, because, somebody said, well, Lord, why you always say why would I say America is the primary daughter? Because isn't there New Zealand, Australia, Chile, Argentina, stuff like that? They're part of the daughters. They're not the main daughter. The main daughter is America, Canada, so forth. So what has been this concept here, what we call NATO? North America, the northern people. So the seven western tribes of Europe and America. They've been asking this question for the last 25 years. You could go back to Desert Storm, but I just take it 25 years when I was paying attention, so to speak. And I started looking into this thing. And the question's been asked. Europe been asking this question: who is able to make war with him? See, that's the question he's asking. Ultimately, that's the question: who is able? So we know it's not the black people because blacks have been taken. The blacks that have been taken from Africa, and Africans don't do war well. There's a clip online you can see. It's a fascinating clip. It's a clip of Nixon talking about black leaders, and he claimed that they're so trusting and lovable, or loving, something like that. They're so trusting, I think it is, and they're so nice. That's what he said. He said they're trusting and nice, and he said incredulously, he said they're so trusting and nice. They can't lead because they trust and they're nice. And I thought that was interesting. This man was supposed to be the first president of America to be indicted on a felony, but he quit. And so end up being Donald Trump, become the first president of America to be indicted as a felon. Not indicted, sorry, got guilty as a felon. What am I talking about? Guilty. So Nixie say they're nice. So we know it's not the Africans, because the Africans have never answered for over 400 years to Western Europe, who is able to make war. So we know that's not the answer to the question. Because you see, I've been asking the question myself. I've been saying, okay, who's able to make war with them? And we know it's not the people in the New World. It's not the Incas and the Mayans and the who over here in the New World, the Massachusetts people. Because I've been to Massachusetts a lot of time, and I've never seen anybody from anybody that look like Massachusetts. Whereas I've never run into any Dakotans or any whatever. So obviously they can't make war with Western Europe. I know in before my lifetime, I think the Vietnamese answered the question and said, "Yeah, we can make war with you," right? So this is the question that's been asked. I think America and Europe been going around the world asking the question: who is able to make war with us? But historically and biblically, the answer to the question is found in the Bible. The Bible tells you who is able to make war, because since it's their primary stand. Because remember, my topic again is winning at all costs by any means, especially war. The aim is not to do right. The aim is to be able to win, to be number one people, the superior people on the planet. And the aim is to do it by war primarily. No matter what they might tell you, that's the history. The history in the Dark Ages, Europe was being destroyed and just disintegrated by war. And the founding fathers of America decided that they weren't going to go in that direction. Not that war was off the table, but they were not good. It's a little bit complicated because I say, about the 1812 war and stuff like that. They were doing war to make their territory, but they had some things written down that it seemed like they understood that war was not always a standing army. I think what General George Washington said, they didn't want to have a standing army. The concept of just having being a constant war footing. But that has changed. As I said, probably even George Washington, the general himself, would not understand the new America, that we're constantly at war. So the question has been asked by Western Europe: who is able in America to make war with the beast? All right. And you can go in the last 50 years, 25 years, and ask the question: who is able to make war with them? Because remember, they're going to win at all costs, especially war. Revelation chapter 13, verse 1 through 4. 1 through 4 here. Notice here. I stood on the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea. I read that already. So now I come to Revelation chapter 13, verse 12 and 13. Notice it says in verse 12 and 13, it says, I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth. And he had two horns like a lamb and spake as a dragon. So you notice dragon. So dragon for the first beast, dragon for the second beast. So the dragon is at focus. Who is really behind this? We're told that war is the devil's playground. The devil liked war because he liked to send people to hell. Notice here, and he exercised all the power of the first beast before him, and caused the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. So we know that's what he's talking about here. So that's NATO for you. So he exercised all the power of the first beast. Huh. So what is the main power of the first beast? To persecute the Christian. So we can say, and as I said to you Monday, that we have not seen the evidence yet that America is primarily hunting down and killing the righteous. But we believe that day is coming soon. But notice it says he exercised all the power. So what was the power of the first beast? Notice I read to you, and I read it again. Verse 4. Who is like unto the beast, and who is able to make war with the beast. So when we see America exercising the powers of the first beast, we know that it's a setup coming. This is the concept. So I believe we're close to the end of time because of this. Because I believe in the last 25 years, America has really gone there. If you go to George Washington concepts and Dwight Eisenhower, America was not in this concept of a totally always war footing. You know, there was World War One, World War Two. There's a cessation, but we see it start developing slowly but surely in like the Colin Powell generation, where now America is permanently at war, and they start looking like Western Europe, more identical to Western Europe. They're you know, their mother like daughter. All right, so let's go on to the question now. Let's go to the answer, at least the way I understand it. Revelation chapter 9, verse 1 through 6. Now, for our pioneers, everybody interpret Revelation chapter 9, verse 1 through 6, and many people in the Dark Ages referred Revelation 9, verse 1 through 6 as being the Muslims or Islam. Islam has been the answer to this question. Not really Vietnam, definitely not black people, definitely not what you call them, like the Incas and the Mayas and stuff like that. They don't know about that. Not definitely the Indians from the Caribbean islands. They don't know nothing about that. The people who have been answering this question from 600 BC, AD, 600, I was getting confused, 600 years after the death of Christ, has been the Islam. Islam has answered this question. And the Bible tells us that the prediction for Islam to answer this question came straight right out of John's writing. John predicted it, that the locust will answer the question. And the locust has been answering the question. The same question now, the locust is answering right now there, which is our current events in Israel. And the other group that would answer it would be Russia, because when Germany decided under Hitler that they were going to do their thing, Germany was the primary answer. If you look at the history, I'm starting to get the understanding that it was the Germans, not even the Americans, that answered the question of Western Europe. And right now, Germany is still, Russia is still answering that question. Who is able to make war with the beast? Not the black people. As you've seen a story like with George Floyd and stuff like that, the black people just get killed and just get bludgeoned. And they're nice, they're cute, they do worship and they go to church and stuff like that. And they want to play ball. They want to play basketball and football. So they're not answering the question. But the Muslims answer the question, or Islam answer the question. Here we go now. Revelation chapter 9, verse 1 through 6. And this is a problem when you go into war footing. Remember I said to you when I was young, I didn't know this was in the Bible, but when I was young, I used to see this. That there's somebody that claimed that they're bad man. They're bad man and they can bad up everybody. That's bad. But there's somebody, most people be like, nah, I'm not into that, and just avoid them. Or just submit to whatever and just kind of work with a program. But every now and then you have somebody be like, I'll answer the question, who is able to make war? And the Muslim for the last 25 years have been answering Western Europe question, who is able to make war? Notice this now. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star. A what? A star fall from heaven unto the earth. And to him was given the key to the bottomless pit. If you study it, and I guess one day I'm going to have to go through a study of this to show you the historical line out of the sounding of the angels. So when the fifth angel sounded, all the angels sounding were a punishment against Western Europe for their killing the martyrs. Remember, it was not just Martin Luther that answered the problem with the Catholic Church and how they were leading Western Europe. part of the answer that God sent them as a punishment was Islam. And Islam answered that question and constantly answered that question. When the righteous, because they're supposed to be dove and lamb, would flee and get killed if they think they couldn't escape, the Muslim were like, nah, we're not into that type of stuff. We're not fleeing, we're fighting. And that has been a check on Western Europe throughout history from 600. That's why if you listen to Western European leaders, they have a bug in their head from Islam and Muslim because they know that's the people who have been checking them all this time. But God is the one that did this. According to John, God is the one that sent the locusts. Notice he's referred to here. We believe this is a vision where who is this person? It is the primary leader that started the religion. And it is referred to as a star. And today, still this day, they have a star. Even if you look at I think the flag or emblem of Russia, it's a star. And I think it's in Dagestan or one of those states in Russia. They have Muslims. I can't remember their name now, but there's a Muslim group that fight heavily for them. But a few years ago, they were fighting against Europe. I'm saying Europe against Russia. Remember, if you remember, there was this case, this situation happened where they took over a theater in Moscow and killed all the people there, and then there was an outright war with Putin and the Russians. I can't remember their name, but there was outright war with them, and then Putin decided to make peace with them, and now they start fighting with Putin against like the Ukrainians, which are Nazis. So the answer there, star and sickle. So you can see it's in there in Turkey flag. If you look at Turkey flag, you see that star. So somebody would say, Lloyd, 2,000 years ago, plus, John writes this. These countries have this star in their flags. It's just, and they always answer the question, who is able to make war? But notice I read it again. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key to the bottomless pit. What's going to come out of the pit? And he opened the bottomless pit. He opened up an area in the world which is known from the time of David and Solomon. He opens it. And if you go back into the Old Testament, you read what location is this and what those people are. You realize they were a handful for the Jews. Notice here, the Jews were told to take over the land and to wipe those people off the face of the planet. David didn't. David was a man of war, and David didn't accomplish it. And Solomon was a man of love, and with all the love and 1,000 wives, he didn't accomplish it. So how is Nigans, I think his name is, I'll probably getting his name wrong, and Benjamin over there in Israel, how are they going to accomplish it? That's going to be fascinating. You believe that? I don't. Because I understand who they're fighting against. And the question has been answered from 600 years after the death of Christ. Who is able to make war with the beast? Who can do this? And the answer has always been the people who open up that star. And Russia put a sickle there. I guess they're into wheat or something, or barley. To open up that, when you open up that area, what opens is an ant's nest. And the ants come bite you, but it's not an ant nest, it's a locust nest. Keep reading. And he opened up the bottomless pit and rose out of the pit smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air was darkened by reason of the smoke out of the pit. Let's keep going. And there came out of the smoke locust, with a S, locust, upon the earth, and upon them was given power, as scorpion of the earth had power. So they have a scorpion, and I'm sure you've probably seen a rendering of this. Locust with some scorpion sting. Very fascinating. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither of any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which had not the seal of God in their foreheads. Who they men be? Who them people that don't have the seal of God? How do you find that out? You go back again to Revelation 13. You go back to Revelation 14. You got to go back to Revelation 8. Who the people in Revelation 17 of the seal of God is primarily talking about Western Europe rebelling against Christianity under the leadership of the Catholic Church. And they're the one that say, who's able to make war? And God says, oh, I know who. The people down there back in the place that, that David himself couldn't deal with. Tried, and he's of all the warriors, he's the warrior. You think the warriors them over there in Israel is as good as David with all their modern weapons? So notice here, but notice we find this statement here. This is very fascinating. It says here in the statement that they should not hurt anything green. Now, how we know who the green is? Well, it's talking about the righteous. The primary, quickest way for you to find out who is it talking about is you just go to Revelation, Psalm chapter 1, and various different psalms, and it will tell you who's green. The green is always God's people. So remember, the Catholic Church under the control, when it controls the seven kingdoms of Western Europe, were killing saints, killing the righteous. And the history was always that when the Catholic Church would go against the righteous, that the righteous will flee to Muslim lands. And this is what most modern preachers don't want to tell you, but if you read historical narratives or an historical study of Revelation chapter 9, is that what we're reading here? Yeah, Revelation 9. What you'll find is this is what the founding fathers and pioneers taught, that when the Christians, and history teach you, when the Christians were persecuted by the leaders in Western Europe, they will always flee to the Muslims, and the Muslim will give them protection. This is history. But yet, if you go right now to the primary leaders in our church, they'll never teach it like that, because it's a problem. Because how are you, a Western person, going to teach that says when you're persecuted, you'll get more protection from the Muslim than you get from a Western leader? This is very troublesome for Western people to teach the history, but this is the history. If you ask yourself the question, when the Jews, remember, there's Jews who are protected more in Muslim land now than probably there would be in Israel, and that's become a problem because depending on the type of Jew you are. Most Western people don't know that says there's a lot of Jews who don't believe in the war, don't believe in going back to Israel. They believe it's rebellion against God because God punished them and kicked them out of the land. And as it is predicted in Deuteronomy 28. But if you listen to Western media, which is controlled, NBC News is owned, and those institutions are owned by Jewish people, but it's more Zionist. They will never want you to hear that because they want to think that's a Jewish people are 100% for what's going on in the war in Palestine, and to go back to Palestine. But there's Jews that don't want that. So Jews always fled. If you think about the story in the Bible, the Jews were good in Iraq. That's the story of Daniel. The story of what's her name? The story of what's the girl name? All of a sudden I forget the name. But these different stories in the Bible, they're good in Iraq, Iran. But it's modernly they'll tell you, oh no, Muslims are not for Jews. But the Christians always get protection. You read the history and go surprise yourself. So that's not what they teach you in major media. But who owns the major media? It's Zionists. They're crazy. So notice here, he says, don't hurt them. So who is it going to hurt then? Notice here, the people who don't have the seal of God in their foreheads. They don't serve God. They say they're religious. Don't be fooled by these evangelicals. The evangelicals, no. They don't know about that. Probably the people in the local pews, but not the leaders. The leaders are in total rebellion. Verse 5, and to them was given that they should not kill them, but that they should torment them for 5 months. So prophetic, you see the period of time when this was executed upon Western Europe. And their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when it striketh a man. And I've known people get stung by a scorpion. Hopefully I've never had that happen to me. Somebody I knew, I can't remember who was telling me they got stung by a scorpion in their sleep. And that woke them up. It has to be a painful thing to wake up to, I'm assuming. And in those days, men shall seek death and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee them. So the question is asked, who is able to make war? who is able to make war with him? And from 9/11 until now, the answer has been coming back. The same star, that same star group has answered. No, no, somebody said, Lord, but the Vietnamese answered that question. Yeah, but there goes your point. Not everybody will flee and get enslaved and get sent on reservation camp. That's for some people. TSA is not looking for the average black person. They're looking for the people with a star. That's who they're really looking for. They're just fooling you and I. They know who's been making war. Now somebody say, well, how you know this? Well, just the last how many years? Just look at the last how many years, and you say, oh, I remember Chechens. You look at the Chechens, and now they've executed for the Russians. They've executed brutally for the Russians, and they've shown Europe, Western Europe, who's able to make war with them. You think about that. You look at the question when it was asked in Iraq and in Afghanistan, in Syria, in Libya, in Egypt. The question has been asked over and over again. And the answer is who? Now, notice now, somebody will say, well, shock and awe. American foreign policy of war is to go in with overwhelming air superiority. The very founding, they say, I think it was Benjamin Franklin, one of them, didn't want to have America main symbol be an eagle. I thought it's very fitting that America, up until this day, have air superiority over every country. And it can just dominate any country with the eagle. What a fitting symbol for America. I know somebody said the Bible describes America as a beast with two horns like a lamb and spake as a dragon. But I think the eagle is as fitting as can be. I don't know, some people think everything in this life is just one big coincidence. I see it as prophetic because even to this day, Russia, from what I've been hearing, does not have air superiority over America. America dominates the air. The problem with that is this now. The eagle, it dominates the air, but the eagle have a problem on the ground. And the real answer to the question was in Vietnam. Vietnam showed you. This wasn't the star people now, per se. Because somebody said, well, they were going with Russia and it was about communism. I get you. But from a point of view, of a technical point of view, just me studying, and I look at this, I'm just studying. I'm really independent of it. I find it fascinating. That America, when it went, the ground was the problem in Vietnam, not in the air, because they said over 500,000 American men, or is it five? You know the number. Whatever amount of American men traversed through Vietnam, fighting for Vietnam. So it must be more than 500,000. I think 5 million, whatever numbers. But 50,000 came back in body bags. And then how many people were maimed and the mental problems and all that. The problem they saw was that, from what I'm learning, is that on the ground, the war changed. But as long as America could do napalm, do various different carpet bomb and everything like that, the Vietnamese would have to go down on the ground and lie low. They couldn't stop America because America, the eagle, dominated the air. But what they showed was the moment you come on the ground now is man for man. And it's gun for gun. It's AK-47 for M16. And you have a problem. What happened with Hezbollah, we learned, was that with Hezbollah fighting Israel a few years ago, twice, 2 times it happened, Hezbollah realized, they will bomb Beirut or bomb whatever, we just go on the ground. You look at what's happening to Hamas. Why most people don't understand why Israel is backing up in Gaza was that Hamas is on the ground. They say Hamas has all its food on the ground, its medical facilities on the ground, its bomb building facilities on the ground, and it's gone over as low as 200 feet on the ground. They've dug tunnels, and they've been doing this for 20 years in preparation. And so, if they've eliminated Israel air superiority, so although Israel had been bombing, and you look at Gaza a few months ago, it was leveled. It is leveled. It looked like a video game, the apocalypse. But it was a waste of time, so to speak, because you just kill out of women and kids. Because what it seemed like the greatest intelligence service in the world missed was there on the ground. because they learn from the Vietnamese and Hezbollah. You just go underground because the air superiority is eliminated. And all they're doing is killing the women and kids and men above ground. So that's why they keep going after hospitals, schools, and stuff like that, because it's like they're not learn what I'm telling you here. Imagine, and they're so intelligent that you can eliminate air superiority. The other question is, why doesn't Israel use the nuclear bomb? They have a nuclear bomb. They could just kill everybody in Gaza. Well, it still wouldn't work because you detonate a nuclear bomb in your own country. You still have to breed, right? And you still have to live. So you destroy your own self. So eliminate the nuclear bomb. And then secondly, well, Gaza, from what I've been understanding from various different experts, on it that probably won't be interviewed by the American media. And they've been saying this from October last year that Gaza, Hamas is on the ground. They've eliminated all that air superiority and all the bombing would not work. And that's what people were saying. There were people saying it, but Americans wouldn't allow them on the media to tell them it's useless what you're doing. They're on the ground. You have to find the tunnels. And some of these tunnels, and think about it, in order for you to understand why it's so difficult, you have to look at New Jersey. I think Israel is about the size of New Jersey. Imagine how big that is, even though New Jersey is in a large state. But if you're digging tunnels all over the place, you don't know where the tunnels are at. And that's why they have to now be back in Gaza. Why they back in Gaza? Because they didn't clear Hamas. Because all this bombing, they just went underground, lie low, wait for the bombing to stop and start coming out and killing. And they're killing every day. They're killing Israeli troops. They're just not telling you. But if you go online, you can see the videos every day. Why? Because you have learned that says you can do all your air superiority, but you still have to come up. You have to come down to our level and fight. But is this new? No. This is scorpions. What does this say about the scorpion? Let me get back to the scorpion before I get to. I still haven't got to my main point. So notice here with the scorpions, what the scorpions do in Iraq. America goes in and not telling its public that is going to be the same problem again. That you could go in with shock and awe or desert storm, fast, 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 bam, 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 we win. And then President Trump and President Bush says, oh, we are mission accomplished. And then now the bombing start. Then the IED start. Because now we're back to Vietnam again. We're back to what Hezbollah did. They don't fight like that. But they don't tell the American people that. They don't fight the way you fight. It's not a Western idea. You come in, bam, 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 shock and awe, whatever. In what happened in Iraq, you start to see, I think the first blow was when they bombed the UN headquarters with Sergio de Mello. You can look that up. And then you say something was on. And then the next day or the next week, it just started escalating. Because what happened, they made a mistake. Because remember, Western Europe don't do diplomacy. They do war, famine, pestilence, slavery, blah, blah. They don't negotiate with criminals, that's what they say, or terrorists. So because they don't negotiate with terrorists, the first mistake they made when they went in, I think it was Donald Rumsfeld, he says he's going to dismiss the military. Well, you dismiss the military without pay. Well, them man trained to fight. And they might hate Saddam Hussein, but you're a foreigner. So quickly, they turned from military people to insurgents. And they didn't get that, but they're in their mind because remember, Western Europe primarily deal with black people and deal with Indians. They don't answer the question who is able to make war. Look at what's going on with Hamas. What did the South Africans do? The South Africans went to court. They're so cute. They went to court and they they're suing to stop the thing because they're bright people. They're nice. But the Palestinians not into that. As a matter of fact, recently I saw a headline, I think yesterday or the day before, that I think Abbas, the head of the PLO or whatever, I don't think PLO, but one of these group in Palestine, decided they're going to join with the South Africans. And I have to chuckle because I said that's so late in the game. But, the South Africans, they're like, we're going to sue. That's so cute. See, the black people don't answer the question. The black people are trying to negotiate, Mandela, Martin Luther King Jr. Think about Martin Luther King Jr. says, one day see black girls and black boys and white girls and white boys, and black boys or whatever, walking. That's so cute. And then they flood black community with drugs and destroy the black community, try to destroy the black community. See, the black people, they're cute. But the Muslims now like, no, we're not into that type of game. And from 600 AD to now, or 600, AD, the year for our Lord, They've been answering the question. And so if you look at what happened in Iraq, you start seeing, oh, the locusts. They look at Afghanistan, they pull out Afghanistan because they're claiming now that over 7,000 of 8,000 military contractors had died in Afghanistan. That was never and still is not never told to the American public. But who were they? Why were they dying? Who was fighting them? There were no fights going on. Afghanistan was quiet. If you follow what was going on, but what they were fighting an insurgency. That's a totally different thing. Insurgency. So what's an insurgency? To get to this point now, an insurgency is that there's no leader. So normally how America and Western Europe think is that they find a boogeyman and they kill the boogeyman and then the war is over. That's how they think because I think they watch too much movies. And how the way the locusts fight or the star people fight is that they don't fight with a central command. So if you notice, if you've been watching the news, and you can get this primarily on Western media from like NBC News or USA Today, they will say, oh, they just took out a major Palestinian leader from Hamas. It don't matter. Because when you understand locusts, they don't fight with central command. They fight as locusts. This is a big thing for you to understand. If any current events, I want you to get this. Understand locusts and that locusts don't fight. So when American goes in, they tell the media, we just take out number 1 or number 2 or number 3 or number 10. I think they had a card of the top people. You remember the deck of cards? And it was Saddam Hussein, was, I don't know if it was Ace of Spade or whatever. And then they had this leader and that leader and that leader and that leader. I remember watching it and thinking, yeah, but that's not how locusts are. Let me give you the text. This text was text to me. I won't say, but this text was text to me to remind me. Look at Proverbs 30, verse 27, just to tell you. This is in the Old Testament, so Revelation and New Testament talk about the locusts. In the Old Testament, here now, Solomon, who married to a lot of the locusts, are the star people. Solomon says, Proverbs 30, verse 27, the locusts have no king, yet go forth all of them by bands. So you say, wait a minute. So let me ask you this, because I know if I ask anybody in the Pentagon, they will fail at this question. If you kill number 5, the 5th top leaders of the locust, does the locust stop coming to eat down the grass? I eat down, destroy everything. Which is interesting because locusts are supposed to eat what's green. But yet the Bible says these locusts in 600 AD in Western Europe did not eat down anything green. So fascinating. If I ask you this, if I ask any president, if I ask currently the president of Israel, is killing number 3 or number 1 or number 2 or number 5 or number 10 leader in Hamas, in Israel, in right now over there in Hamas or Hezbollah, will that stop the locusts? And you know what the answer is going to be? Oh, yeah, because that's Western thinking. They think if they take out the leader, they stop the system. But that's not how the Bible tells you locusts fight. Locusts don't go like that. You don't kill number 1 and number 2. But you see them all the time. My mom always find it fascinating because they don't need no central command. So if you remember the war in Iraq, it was constant, every day the Americans are trying to kill number 5. And then the next day they kill number 5. And the next day number 5. The next day they kill number 3. Then they kill number 1. Then they kill number 10. Then they kill number 20. Then they kill number 3. And it goes on and on. And you're like, when will they learn? Killing number 1 is just killing number 1. Killing number 10, it don't matter. Because the insurgency gonna continue. And that's your current event. I can't give you another powerful current event than understanding locusts. When you see certain things happening, they say, who is the leader? There's no leader. And that's been Afghanistan. That's been Iraq, Syria, whatever. Locusts, they don't fight in the way Westerners fight. There's no central command. They just get up and fight. And when it's time for them not to fight, they don't fight. And then they start fighting. You look at this in the news and there's no way I can't contradict it myself. I've tried to look at it to the left, to the right, up, down, north, south. And that's the only conclusion I come with. That no matter how much leaders they eliminate, it never stops the war. I don't know what else I can say. The Bible is the book of books. The Bible is so complete to explain to you what's going to happen tomorrow. You cannot break these principles. So when the war started in Ukraine and I started seeing the Chechnyan prominent, I say, yeah, there goes the locusts again. The star is going to whip them. So somebody say, how powerful is this? Look today at anybody from Italy, Portugal, or Spain, and you can see they have a star all over them. They're not white anymore because they were conquered by Moroccans and Algerians and people from the star group. And that's a fact. And if things had continued, if you read the history, even Germany would have been run over. That's how powerful they were getting. They are taking over. If you can go look at the architecture in Italy, Spain, Portugal, and you can see it's Islamic. They got rid of statues. They they basically multiplied with them, so to speak, or what you call it, impregnate them. And now you go. So somebody said that's why you look at Brazilians and they look a certain way, Colombians look a certain way, Italians look a certain way. Why? Because they were conquered. The question was answered definitively at 600. Who is able to make war? The people with the star or the locusts. How they do war? It's a war of attrition. It's not a Western war where shock and awe. There's a different war mentality. They just keep coming in, coming in, coming in. But the difference was they didn't go after any green tree. And there's more we'll talk about that because that's a major narrative for me when I read the news. And I remember on that Bush, it really got sunk in my head real big because they would have a deck of cards and they couldn't stop the insurgency. And I said, they don't know. They could kill number 10, number 100 on the list, the top 100 people, and they'll just keep fighting. Why? The Bible said God sent them. Because you and I, we're sitting ducks for the juggernaut, the mind blowing power of Western Europe. And that's why you look at us. Somebody say, well, Lord, you talk about the Portuguese and the Spain and why they look a certain way, Italians. How about you? Well, yeah, I'm composite. I have some of the slave owners in me. I have some Indians in me. I have some Irish people in me. I have, all these people. That's what it is. As I said, the South Africans are cute. They go into court, but the Muslims are like, they didn't even sign up. I think another country I saw recently want to sign up to that thing. Again, they go to court and they're trying to be nice, and the Western Europeans run them over and enslave them and stuff like that. But the Muslims, they always fight back. And this will always be the case. I read again, Proverbs 30, verse 27. The locusts have no king, yet go forth all them by bands. Just start eating stuff down. But yet the Bible says in Revelation they won't eat the green. Why not? Because, they know we're not against them. Notice here, I'm going to read this very powerful statement, looking at my time. Hopefully I can get through this. I read this very powerful statement from Ellen G. White, written 1893, and it's written in Review and Herald. And here she's talking about America, how America is going to exercise all the power of the first beast. What's going to happen? Notice here, God does not willingly afflict or grieve the children of men. With tearful utterance, the husbandman say, what more could I do for my vineyard that I have not done in it? The unrivaled mercies and blessings of God have been showed upon our nation, talking about America. It has been a land of liberty and the glory of the whole earth. But instead of returning gratitude to God, instead of honoring God and His law, the professed Christians of America have become leavened with pride, covetousness, and self sufficiency. The love of money, which is the root of all evil, has a large place in their heart. Many whose name are upon the church records have oppressed the poor, grasped every possible advantage over those who were under them. They have lived to gratify appetite, to make extravagant display, and pride is fast making a Sodom of the world. She'll be surprised how much a Sodom America's made of the world. But God is keeping His reckoning. The treatment of the poor, the robbery of the widow and fatherless by those who are lifted up against the weak and helpless is all written in the book of heaven. This is the sad reality. how much poor people we're just murdering. The cries of those who are oppressed have reached the ears of him who judgeth righteously. The time has come when judgment is fallen in the streets, and equity cannot enter, and he that departed from evil make himself a prey. But the Lord's arm is not shortened, that it cannot save, and his ear is not heavy, that it cannot hear. The people of the United States have been a favored people, but when they restrict religious liberty, surrender Protestantism, and give countenance to popery, the measure of their guilt will be full, and national apostasy will be registered in the books of heaven. The result of this apostasy will be national ruin. The result of this apostasy will be national ruin. It will destroy a country. If you look at what's going on in America right now, war, 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 but yet you see the grinding down of the poor, the fatherless, the widow, the disabled. No care. All the countries focus on is just war, famine, and pestilence, especially on poor people all over the world. Every embargo does not hurt the rich. Every embargo hurt the poor. The poor is the one that are not going to be able to buy food and clothing. You look at what America is doing with these corrupt people from Kenya to Haiti. Who controls Haiti? It's basically the Clintons. It's war, famine, and pestilence. It's been wicked. And this is what's happening. And yet, they're so favored and blessed. And instead of blessing others, they curse the society and people, and especially those that don't resist them. Another statement I'm going to read for you here, which is found in 5 Testimony, page 451. So all this rebellion will end in the mark of the beast. This is what is basically I'm saying. And they will be challenged because the Bible tells you who is able to make war with it. Notice here, by the decree enforcing the institutions of the papacy in violation of the law of God, our nation, talking about the United States, will disconnect herself fully from righteousness. So Ellen G. White predict that says there come a time when America will disconnect itself 100% from all righteousness, and ultimately we go after the righteous, just like the Europeans did under the papacy. When Protestantism shall stretch her hand across the gulf to grasp the hand of the Roman power, when she shall reach over the abyss to clasp the hand of spiritualism, this is becoming bigger in America. When under the influence of the threefold union, our country shall repudiate every principle of its constitution as a Protestant and Republican government, and shall make provision for the propagation of papal falsehoods and delusions, then we may know that the time has come for the marvelous working of Satan, and the end is near. So she's saying Protestantism with spiritualism and Catholicism will unite. That means the secret society and the trade unions, these corrupt organizations, will unite against God's people. America will have disengaged. Is this coming? Are we getting closer yet? Notice here, as the approach of the Roman armies was a sign to the disciples of the impending destruction of Jerusalem, so may this apostasy be a sign to us that the limit of God's forbearance is reached, and that the measure of our nation's iniquity is full, and that the angel of mercy is about to take her flight, never to return. The people of God will be plunged into those scenes of affliction and distress which the prophets have described as the time of Jacob's trouble. The cries of the faithful persecuted ones ascend to heaven. And as the blood of Abel cried from the ground, there are voices also crying to God from martyr's grave, from the sepulchres of the sea, from the mountain caverns, and from covent vaults. How long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? And as we know, the Lord will answer this, because as she says here, I want to say it exactly what she said. She says, national ruin follow. God steps in. Michael steps in. Because what we see going on is this warmonger thing will ultimately, the Bible tells us, will transfer. They will turn the power of the FBI and the CIA and all the military might upon God's people in the end. Will be a Jacob time of trouble. And this is coming. This is not here yet. I wouldn't be here talking this way. But I'm talking this way because I see it coming. I see this war posture. We know when it takes on this war posture, this oppressive nature to the poor, the fatherless, the widow, the strangers. When you hear a president talking about he'll send the military into Mexico, you know that says this is getting worse. It's war, war, war. But we're told in Daniel that it will not end the way they think, because God will answer. And this time, God will have to avenge the blood of Abel, the blood of Jesus, upon, they were told, this nation when they go down that road. And that's why we preach to warn and tell other people, wake up, what's happening? We're in some serious times. Let us pray. Our Father who art in heaven, I thank you for your word. And this day I pray, the Lord, that you may bless us, that we may walk humbly before thee, and we may always choose, dear Lord, to serve thee, that we may be like a tree planted by the rivers of waters. May you bless us, we pray, for Christ's sake. Amen. Well, thanks for being with me here on Revive Reform Radio. Looking forward to talking to you again live tomorrow, where we talk about religion. Until then, I pray that you may continue to walk with the King.